I'm good.
We have a few more people that are supposed to be joining us, so hey everybody. We're gonna start in about 4 minutes at 10:05. We have a few more people that are supposed to be joining us, so if you want to do whatever until then. And yeah, so we'll start.
Hi, Rabia. Hi, Mojane.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi, Oscar. How you doing?
Hey, Justin, I'm doing well.
Hey Rabia, we're gonna start in just a couple minutes to see if anyone else drops in.
Okay, no problem.
Okay, everybody, we're gonna get started. So I'm gonna share my screen and start going through the presentation. Okay, can everybody see my screen okay?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so before we begin, if I could just have each of you share your name and then also what TRIO program you're in or who your advisor is if you're unsure what program you're in yet.
I guess I'll start. My name is Oscar, and my advisor is Stacy.
Hey, Oscar, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Hi, my name is Abhyada. My advisor is Stacy.
Rabia.
My advisor is Basic.
A lot of Stacy students today. Is that everybody? I can't see your titles anymore.
My name is Mandy. My advisor is Marcio.
Okay, yeah, great. Nice to meet you. So my name is Haley. I'm a peer coach for the Trio Achieve and Teacher Prep programs. So everyone that's with Stacy, that's the Achieve program, and then Mandy, your advisor is Marcial, then you're in the Teacher Prep program. So I'll be working with all of you pretty closely through the rest of the semester. And then we also have Jesse observing the orientation today, and then he is another advisor for the Achieve program. So if we could just, oh, I'm sorry, what did you say?
Oh, I was just saying good morning again, everybody. Yeah, forgive me if there's a little bit of background noise when I chime in here. It's just in a small space with my kids now, but it's good to see everybody. Happy Friday.
Hi, Jesse. Okay, so let's start off by everyone sharing either why did you join Trio, how you heard about Trio, or what are you most looking forward to about being in Trio?
Okay, so I guess I'll start. I joined Trio just 'cause I felt like I could use the support available, and just wanted to make sure I used all resources available to me at the time. And then how I found out about it was just, I think I sent out an email blast earlier in the year. So that's how it caught my attention.
Nice.
I joined because I need Easter egg, and I earned for my tutor dancing.
Nice, thanks for sharing. Anybody else?
I joined Trio for extra support.
Nice.
I joined Trio because I was part of Trio at community college, and I need some extra tutoring.
Okay, great. Great, well, welcome all of you to Trio. We're glad that you're going to be joining us. So this is our Trio staff at Northeastern. Our director of the program, her name is Ani. And then we have our 3 Trio programs. We have Achieve, and then this hasn't been updated since Stacy joined us, but she is the other advisor for Achieve. And then for Access, our team is made up of Aaron and Richie. For Teacher Prep, our team is Rachel and Marcial. And then we also have Vernon as our office support person. So beyond that, we also have our peer coaches. So I am the peer coach for the Achieve and Teacher Prep programs. And then the peer coach for Access, her name is Nithya. And then we also have our tutors as well that are listed. So this is just our orientation agenda and everything that we're going to be going over today. And also I have my dog in here with me, so don't mind him if you hear a squeaking or a bark. So let's start off with what is Trio Student Support Services. So we're going to start by just watching this short video, and please let me know if there's any issues with the audio, because I've had that happen before.
I once saw a high school teacher lead a simple, powerful exercise to teach his class about privilege and social mobility. He started by giving each student a scrap piece of paper and asked them to crumple it up. Then he moved the recycling bin to the front of the room. He said, "The game is simple. You all represent the country's population, and everyone in the country has a chance to become wealthy and move into the upper class. To move into the upper class, all you must do is throw your wadded up paper into the bin while sitting in your seat." The students in the back of the room immediately piped up saying, "This is unfair." They could see the rows of students in front of them had a much better chance. Everyone took their shots, and, as expected, most of the students in the front made it, but not all, and only a few students in the back of the room made it. He concluded by saying, "The closer you were to the recycling bin, the better your odds. This is what privilege looks like."
So a lot of you may have seen that video before, and I'm sure that none of you are a stranger to the conversation about privilege and what that means, especially in our society. So there's just a little video that explains it. So that connects with the achievement gap, which is the gap between racial, ethnic, disability groups, and educational attainment, which begins as early as infancy. So our goal with TRIO is to help close in the achievement gap a little bit by providing extra support and resources to the groups that don't have as much privilege in our society. And so another way to go over that is by talking about equality versus equity versus access. So in the first image, it's assumed that everyone will benefit from the same supports, so they are being treated equally. So all 3 people have the same size box, being treated equally. And then the second one is equity, which means that the individuals are given different supports to make it possible for them to have equal access to the game. So they are being treated equitably. So the short student or person has extra support, and then the tall person doesn't have any support, and then they're all able to see the game at equal heights. And access is the third image, where all 3 can see the game without any supports or accommodations because the cause of the inequity is addressed and the systemic barrier has been removed. So in an ideal world, TRIO would be able to better address the systemic barriers that go on in education, so that way students wouldn't need extra support. But that's not quite the world we live in. So TRIO is probably considered in the equity area, so we give students who need that extra support the help that they need. So TRIO Student Support Services is considered a federal outreach and student services program in the United States designed to identify and provide services for individuals from certain backgrounds. And TRIO is funded by the U.S. Department of Education. And so, as one student had mentioned earlier, that they had participated in TRIO at their community college. TRIO programs are all across the United States. So our university is very lucky. We have 3 different TRIO programs to be able to serve many different groups. So our main goal at TRIO is to assist students in obtaining their first bachelor's degree. So everything that we do is to try and get you to graduate with your bachelor's. Okay, and then the next area we'll go over is attitudes and beliefs. Does anyone have any questions or comments so far they'd like to share?
I guess I have a quick question. Why is it split up into like different sections? You know, like the Achieve and the A's and whatnot.
Yeah, so there's 3 different programs. So it just depends on the type of student and the type of support they need. So the teacher prep program specifically for future teachers. So all of the extra resources and supports are helping them, you know, to go through the student teaching process, all of the you know, teaching exams they have to take along those lines. For the access students, that program serves students with disabilities, and the Achieve program is just more open-ended and serves any type of student who is eligible for TRIO. Okay, so next we're going to go over attitudes and beliefs of the program. So what is grit? So you may have heard of grit before as kind of a general term, but talking about it here, it's actually a measurable personality trait. So some of you may have heard of this concept or may have even taken the grit scale assessment before. So this is an example of the grit assessment scale. And it contains questions like this: I have overcome setbacks to conquer an important challenge. And the answer, very much like me, down to not like me at all. So it's 12 items. You get a score up to 5. 5 meaning that you have more grit, 0 meaning that you have less grit. So we'll go over that a bit more in depth of what exactly is grit. So grit as a personality trait, it enables an individual to persevere in accomplishing a goal despite obstacles over an extended period of time, also known as stick-to-itiveness, which is not a real word, but you kind of get the idea from it. You know, you stick to something over an extended period of time as a measurable personality trait. So grit is really kind of the cornerstone between passion and perseverance for very long-term goals. So it's having stamina, sticking with your future day in, day out for years. So if this concept is interesting to any of you, the person who had actually done all of this research, her name is Angela Lee Duckworth. She has a book called Grit. She has a TED Talk.
I'm in my meeting.
Interesting stuff. She actually did a lot of her research on students at the Chicago public schools. So grit, you can see here, is measured more by the heart. It's more than the brain. So what that means is that high grit is actually a better predictor of success than a high IQ. And so here's a graphic that shows what people think success looks like, a perfect straight line versus what success really looks like, which is a super crazy jumbled line going all over the place. So you're going to have a lot of ups and downs, setbacks to eventually go up over time. So connecting with the idea of grit is the idea of failure versus practice. So failure is natural, it's necessary, and it's really just the way that we learn as humans. And in music and in sports, failure over and over again is just called practice. So it's really helpful if you think of any one of your failures, professional or personal, and just reframe it as this is me practicing, especially in an academic sense. If you think, getting low scores on papers, discussion posts, things like that. It's just practice, maybe practice for an exam, just practice over time. One bad grade isn't going to ruin your education or career. So here is a way of how to develop grit. So it's seeing failure as an opportunity for learning, and it's cultivating a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset. So you can see on this graphic here. So a fixed mindset, it sounds like this. I can't do this. I can't do any better. I keep making mistakes. It's no good. I'm no good at this. This is too hard. And I quit. Versus a growth mindset, which sounds like I can't do this yet. It will get better with practice. Mistakes help me get better. It's my best now. I did my best. This is challenging. So a lot of us are really raised with this fixed mindset. We think, okay, well, I'm not smart enough for this, and then that's the end of the story. That's it. And not a lot of us are raised with this growth mindset, to where if we just work really hard, we spend more time, we use our resources, and we can grow in different ways. So some more on growth mindset. Here's a helpful video to help explain it.
Did you know there's a powerful relationship between what we believe about how we learn and our actual achievement? Dr. Carol Dweck studies students' beliefs about intelligence. What she found is that students generally hold one of two very different beliefs about intelligence. Some students have what she calls a fixed mindset. This is the belief that intelligence is a fixed trait that doesn't change much. So like eye color, these students believe you're born with a certain amount of intelligence and there's not much you can do to change it. Other students have a very different belief about intelligence. They have a growth mindset. They see intelligence more like a muscle. They understand that when you put in effort, you can get smarter. What we now know from study after study is that the more students have a growth mindset and believe that they can grow their intelligence, the better they do in school. Students with a growth mindset do better in school because they approach learning differently than students with a fixed mindset. For students with a fixed mindset, their goal in school is to show how smart they are or hide how dumb they think they are. This makes sense, right? If you think you're just born smart or dumb, you want to make sure you show that you are smart. So this makes fixed mindsetters much less likely to ask questions in class or seek out help from peers or teachers, because that would involve showing that they don't know something. Students with a growth mindset, on the other hand, have the goal to learn. So they're more likely to ask a question if they don't understand, or to seek out help, or try a new strategy if they're struggling. When it comes to the amount of effort you have to put forth, students with a fixed mindset and students with a growth mindset see that differently as well. Those with a fixed mindset actually see effort as proof of low ability. They think that if you have to try hard, that means you aren't very smart. Whereas students with a growth mindset see effort as the way that you get smarter. How students react when they are faced with a challenge or setback in their learning is what really differentiates those with a fixed mindset and those with a growth mindset. Students with a fixed mindset will think that they are not smart and will likely give up on a task. Those with a growth mindset tend to work harder because they see it as an opportunity to learn and grow their intelligence. So if we can all grow our intelligence, are we saying that all students have equal ability? We aren't saying that everyone has the same level of intelligence. Having a growth mindset doesn't mean that you believe everyone has equal ability in every subject matter. It also doesn't mean that we believe some students aren't more talented in certain subjects than others. It means that you believe that no matter where a person is now, they can always improve with effort, good strategies, and help. And that's the number one piece of information you should take away from this lesson. No matter where a person is now, they can always improve with effort, good strategies, and help.
So next we're going to talk about how all of this relates to the concept of brain plasticity. So this is a quick video that discusses neuroplasticity.
Not so long ago, many scientists believed that the brain did not change after childhood, that it was hardwired and fixed by the time we became adults. But recent advances in only the last decade now tell us that this is simply not true. The brain can and does change throughout our lives. It is adaptable, like plastic. Hence, neuroscientists call this neuroplasticity. How does neuroplasticity work? If you think of your brain as a dynamic, connected power grid, there are billions of pathways or roads lighting up every time you think, feel, or do something. Some of these roads are well-traveled. These are our habits, our established ways of thinking, feeling, and doing. Every time we think in a certain way, practice a particular task, or feel a specific emotion, we strengthen this road. It becomes easier for our brains to travel this pathway. Say we think about something differently, learn a new task, or choose a different emotion. We start carving out a new road. If we keep traveling that road, our brains begin to use this pathway more, and this new way of thinking, feeling, or doing becomes second nature. The old pathway gets used less and less and weakens. This process of rewiring your brain by forming new connections and weakening old ones is neuroplasticity in action. The good news is that we all have the ability to learn and change by rewiring our brains. If you have ever changed a bad habit or thought about something differently, you have carved a new pathway in your brain and experienced neuroplasticity firsthand. With repeated and directed attention towards your desired change, you can rewire your brain.
Interesting.
So what did you all learn about grit, growth mindset, and the brain? Anyone like to share your comments about the videos or concepts, or how I think it can relate to your own journey as a college student?
Hi, I'm Mitzi. So what I learned about grit growth mindset is that I think it's important to change your mindset more to grit, just because it will keep you motivated and actually help us achieve our goals and finish school. And I think especially as a first gen student, sometimes you have this mindset of like, oh, I don't belong, or I don't get this, because maybe the previous education I received before coming to college wasn't the best. So sometimes I've even experienced this where you kind of want to give up, and that's just because I think I did come into school with a fixed mindset. But if I were to change my mindset, I'll probably do better in the long run.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for sharing that. I think so many students in TRIO have, had to develop more grit over time than students who had a more privileged background where things have been so much easier for them in terms of educational attainment. And like I said before, all of us were probably raised with that fixed mindset and kind of like, well, I'm not smarter than these other kids, so I'm just kind of done. But I think learning all of these things is almost like a bit of relief, knowing that there is a way to be able to change your mindset. There is a way to be able to grow your abilities and grow your educational levels. Anyone else like to share their thoughts?
You want more? What? It's outside, Mo.
Okay, then we can move on.
Huh?
So the next
What
thing
the
we're going to
heck,
go
you?
over is
I don't have your phone.
self-regulation
Don't have
and
it.
responsibility.
Get out of here.
So
What are you
for personal
doing?
responsibility, there's kind of two different paths that we
Ooh.
can take. So say there's a stimulus, like you got a bad grade on a paper.
Yeah.
So when that happens, we have a choice between these two paths. One is the victim path, and then one is called the creator path. So the victim path looks like blaming, complaining, excusing, and repeating the behavior. And so that just, it rarely achieves your goals. And if you were to take the different path of what we call the creator, this looks like taking responsibility, seeking solutions, taking actions, and doing something different. So this path actually leads you to achieving your goals much more often. So this is what the victim voice looks like. It's kind of divided into two areas. So one is called the inner critic. So the inner critic judges us. It blames us, complains about us, demeans us, and it can often sound like critical parents and other judgmental adults we have known. So its positive intention seems to be protecting us from attack from the outside. Through constant self-criticism, the inner critic hopes to perfect our actions, thoughts, and feelings to meet the approval of others, and thus avoid their displeasure and possible punishment. So a lot of us have this inner critic where we just judge ourselves constantly, and it's this stream of consciousness of saying terrible things about ourselves. It's guilt, it's shame. It's really hard to live with. And a lot of times we say these terrible things about ourselves to protect us in case someone else is going to say those things to us. So another part of the victim voice is the inner defender. So this takes the criticism and it turns it outwards. And it judges others, it blames others, complains about them, demeans them. And it can sound like a scared, confused little kid backed into a corner. Its positive intention is trying to fend off criticism and punishment from powerful others. As such, the inner defender becomes a master of the preemptive strike. So on the other hand, the other path is called the creator voice. So we can look at it like our inner guide. It offers an objective and wise perspective about ourselves and others. It doesn't demean or attack. It just observes things as they are. It observes the events in a creator's life, asking simply, am I on course or off course? And if I'm off course, how can I best get back on course? It tells us the absolute truth as best as we can know it at that time, allowing us to become more fully conscious of the world, other people, and especially ourselves. So if any of you are familiar with mindfulness, this would be considered the mindful approach. So instead of using judgment against ourselves and others, we just try and be more objective. So if we have this person here, this is what the creator voice sounds like. Darn, I failed the test. I'll talk to my teacher to see how I can improve. So instead of using that judgment against themselves or someone else, they just say, all right, what can I do to improve for next time? What resources do I have? Versus the inner critic, which sounds like, I failed another test. I'm so stupid. I never should have come to college. So it blames the self, and it really just doesn't solve the problem. It's going to make them feel worse about themselves, and nothing good comes out of it. Versus the inner defender, which takes that criticism outwards. I would have passed that test if I had a decent teacher. She's terrible. So it blames others, also doesn't solve the problem. And a lot of us are definitely raised with this inner critic or inner defender mentality. So the creator one is definitely one we have to work at over time, but it's definitely more helpful in terms of making changes. It's also just better for our mental health and self-worth. So when life comes calling, with which inner voice will I respond? It's my choice. So that's kind of how it goes back to personal responsibility. So we're going to look at this language of responsibility, and we're going to look at these areas. So this is like a victim statement. We're going to see how we can turn it around into more of a mindful creator talk. So I would be doing a lot better at this college if the professors were better. So that's taking that criticism and turning it against the professors. An example of the creator would talk is, I may have not done well on the test, but I can use my resources and try and do better next time. So it's kind of taking responsibility for their grades instead of blaming all of the professors for it. So another example, no one told me when the assignment was due. So to look at it a different way would be the due date was probably listed on the syllabus, and I should have checked it for the due date. So it's just trying to, take more personal responsibility, even when it's hard and painful. Would anyone like to take one of these statements and try and turn it into the creator talk?
Yeah. How about I stopped by my professor's office, but he wasn't there. A creator talk would probably look like or sound like maybe he's meeting with a different student or something came up. I'll email him or her and check back later.
Yeah, definitely. So looking at that, the way to take responsibility is, okay, well, they're not there right now. I'll reach out to them through email. I can stop by later. Actually, let's take a look here. There's more examples. I know some of these are kind of hard, and I don't think it's the best example of the victim mentality. But would anyone else like to try a different one?
So I think we can take a little bit of time here to think through, to really embrace what creative talk looks like, sort of look at your own limiting beliefs and your own victim voice. We all have our own example of a victim voice that tends to respond to different kinds of situations. So I think what we would like you to do for a little bit, rather than trying to come up with one example, we really want you to think of the examples that are really going to help you sort of overcome your own victim voices. So the list, I'm gonna, Haley or I will pop the link in for this document that we're looking at. And we want you to look over the list and identify one or two of these statements that really resonates with you. Like, oh, I remember when that happened and thought a similar thought, maybe not exactly the same, but a similar thought, and then practice, rewriting that one. I think that can be a powerful thing to do. So I will pop the link in here in a second, and then we want you to explore and just take a few minutes, like 4 or 5 minutes to practice what you found and ready to share.
Yeah, thanks, Jesse. Yeah, and I can give a couple more examples just to help share kind of what this looks like. I know it's really tough at first to switch from this victim mindset over to the creator, as they call it. So one helpful way to think about it is when you make a complaint about something, think about how could I take some of this responsibility. Obviously, 100% of anything is not your fault. There's always going to be outside circumstances, especially when you're dealing with professors, other classmates, things like that. But a lot of times there's some responsibility that we can take. So another one is, I can't help talking in class. I mean, talking in class is a pretty easy one because that's something we can control. And so if you think like, well, I haven't been making an effort to stay quiet in class, but in the future, I'm going to try to stop talking in class. Another one could be, I couldn't get the assignment because I was absent. And a way to take some responsibility is you could check the syllabus because the assignment was likely listed on the syllabus. You could reach out to some of your classmates over email. You could also reach out to the professor. But to say, I couldn't get the assignment at all because I was gone. There's ways around that where you can take a little bit more responsibility. And obviously absences are going to come up. We all have other things in our lives going on besides school. But just looking at what ways could I take responsibility for this? What can I do? Who can I reach out to? What resources do I have? Let's see, another one.
I think one word of caution in thinking about implementing the creator voice. Sometimes many of us, our upbringing makes us very hard on ourselves and like very self-critical. And so sometimes what we think might be creator voice is sort of us blaming ourselves for feeling bad about what already happened, right? And so part of the creative voice is focusing on empowerment to moving forward, saying, how do you handle this situation in general or the next time, rather than looking back and saying, I should have done this, or kind of beating yourself up over what you should do in a situation. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely, Jesse. Thanks for sharing that. And this connects back to what we talked about a little earlier of the inner critic. And yeah, so many of us have that growing up and, even into adulthood. So make sure you don't overcorrect and go too far. You don't go from blaming the professor to saying, everything is my fault, I'm a terrible person and I'll never succeed. That mindset isn't helpful either. So if you try and take the judgment out of it and think just, what can I do in the future? And then the last one we can go over is I didn't have time to do the reading. So another way to look at that is I didn't make the reading a priority. To say I didn't have the time, I'm sure physically you had, 30 minutes over the last week to do the reading, but you just didn't prioritize it and you didn't make the full effort to get it done. So a way to change that mindset is next week I'll make it more of a priority and I will make time to do the reading. So does that make sense to everyone? Does anyone have any questions or comments about this whole process and how it can apply to you?
So we'll give you all a few minutes to work on at least one creator talk statement for that victim talk example that really resonates with you. And if you've already done that, think about a second and third. I typically ask people to pick 3. So just be ready to share one, but keep going if you find a few that really resonate. The more you can change that, the more helpful. So I'll set a little timer here for about 4 minutes, and then we can share.
Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen for just a minute. Like Jesse said, we'll take the next few minutes to work on this, and then I'll let you know if we're going to continue.
Oh, and also I see we have people who joined us this last 30 minutes. So when we do our share out, we'll ask you all to take a minute and introduce yourselves and sort of what brought you to Trio.
Taking a long time to load. Just isn't that kind of the same as system work? I think this one.
We'll do about 2 or 3 more minutes, and then we'll start sharing.
I sent the email to my person. What?
I need for my boss on my caddy. It's too loud.
No, you don't.
Yes, I do.
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 No, you don't.
Yes, you do.
Oh, you gonna rap for me? There's no sound coming out from your room. Just go away.
Yes, there is.
I don't hear nothing from your room. Go away.
All right, everybody. That was 4 minutes. I'll kick things off. I'll share my example. And for those of you all that weren't here in the very beginning, I'm Jesse. I'm the coordinator of the Achieve program and also an advisor to many Achieve students. And let's see, my example is the professor doesn't like me. I always like to pick that example because
Go your room. Go your room.
perhaps it is true. It can be true, right? So my statement is that even if the professor doesn't like me, I can still do well in this class, figure out what that takes. And also, I added to that, I can also work on having a better relationship with the professor. So, 2 creator statements there for that example.
Thanks, Jesse, for sharing. So if we could go around, whoever would like to share first, pick your favorite example if you worked on multiple of them. And also, if you weren't here at the beginning of the presentation, if you could just share your name, either what TRIO program you're in or who your advisor is, and also just how you heard about TRIO.
Hi, my name is Mitzi Konorski. I heard of TRIO through one of my friends, Destiny. She's in my special ed cohort, and she had mentioned it previously. I meant to apply earlier, but I honestly, I have a lot going on all the time, so I kind of backed off on that. But then there was an opportunity this year, and I did apply. And Rachel, my advisor, has been awesome. She stays on top of me because there is moments where I will slack off because I get to focus on whatever I have going on in the classroom. The one I chose was, wait, hold on, I have it right here. Oh, no one told me when the assignment was due. And the reason I chose that one is because I feel like personally, now that we've been doing this remote learning for a year, this is like, this is like something I myself said, or someone say at least once a week in a course. And I will say sometimes it is a little difficult to keep up with like the syllabus, or professors change the syllabus, but then the most updated version is not the one we have. So I think the way to change this is, if you're not sure, just email the professor. And just continue to email them, ask people like, hey, when is this due? Or if you do have those, those last 10 minutes after those long 2-hour meetings, just like, hey, when is this due? Or like, I don't understand your syllabus. And sometimes I personally feel like you don't want to ask that because it's like, well, I'm going to sound stupid because I should know how to read the syllabus. But at the same time, like this semester, we had it happen a lot where it was unintentional, that our professors it was more on things changed, so they had to change their curriculum. And when they did that, like they're human too, so they missed a few things. They didn't realize they didn't put the correct date. We did have that happen. Your professor totally forgot to put due dates on everything. So we thought we didn't have anything to do for a month, and then he's emailing us like, hey, you haven't submitted anything. And it's like, wait. And then it's like, you know what? That did seem suspicious, but none of us thought to email the professor and say, hey, is this correct? Because we don't have anything due. This is great, but is this really true? And then at the end, the person ended up being like, we had to do everything by a certain date, and that was stressful. So yeah, that one was definitely one that I could personally relate to. Thank you.
Mitzi, thanks for sharing. Yeah, you're right. That's a very relevant example in remote learning. Yeah, things are a little all over the place when you're on Zoom all the time, and yeah, things can get lost in translation very easily. So yes, that's a good example. Anyone else like to share next?
Hi, I'm Abdul Akbar. My brother is Daisy. And yeah, so when class has assignment for as a debate, and we have to be two things. So that time I will to be not do for dominant for order, and I cannot at the end decide it with people because I've been nervous. So that time I'm trying to be talking to another person so they can be understand me, and if I have chance to understand them, what I that what is my opinion to that topic, I'm trying to be that.
Yeah, thank you for sharing.
I'll go next. My name is Crystal, and I'm a returning student. I took a couple semesters off, and I wanted to join the TRIO program because when I was at a community college, the TRIO program was really helpful, and so I wanted to utilize, the same programs that they offered at Northeastern when I joined to Northeastern. So if I look at back to the paper on victim talk and creator talk, I chose, let's see. I couldn't come to class because I had a doctor's appointment. And so that is a victim talk, and how I would change it to creator talk would be, even though I had a doctor's appointment, I could have reached out to the professor and let them know that I had a doctor's appointment, communicated with them that I wouldn't be in class. Another one would be, I can't help talking in class. I chose this one too because sometimes I do talk a lot, but not in like a disrespectful way, but it can come off disrespectful if the professor is teaching. But we are human, so the professor, which one was it? Yeah, I can't help talking in class. So a creator talk, I think I would kind of, let's see, I'm thinking out loud here too. I can't help talking in class. Instead of like being a victim and say I can't help, I can try to stop talking when the professor is teaching and talk when we're having breaks. Because we do get breaks in class, so you can use that time to, socialize and talk, or even, but you can take it a step further. I can't stop looking at my phone in class, step out of the room or look at your phone, or use the breaks that we have in class to, take a look at your phone. And that's it. Thanks.
Thanks, Crystal. Could you also let us know what TRIO program you're in, or who your advisor is?
Oh, yeah. My advisor is Rachel, and so this is, I'm not sure what program I'm in, but I just applied to the College of Ed for early childhood education. So it's kind of fairly new to me too. So I'm not exactly sure. Is it based on like what your degree you're pursuing? Is that the program? Is that what you mean by that?
Yeah, so you kind of missed at the beginning of the presentation. We have 3 different TRIO programs. So if Rachel is your advisor, you'll be in the teacher preparation program along with Mitzi. And so I'm also the peer coach for the teacher prep program. So I working closely with both of you throughout the semester and your time with Trio.
Oh, great. It's nice to meet you guys.
It's nice to meet you too.
You will have to present.
Are you guys looking for another volunteer? Okay, so mine was I get angry when I work hard, still fail, of course. I guess the way to recreate that statement would be I should manage my time better because I can't learn a course in a week, like right before finals. It's pretty common for me to like try to cram everything in instead of, taking the time to actually study ahead of time.
Do we have to talk?
Sounds good.
Do we all have to talk?
Hi, I wrote in the chat because I'm currently thinking I can already talk. That's fine. You're muted, Trio SSS.
Hi, yes, thank you for letting me know. Yeah, Jayla, it's totally fine. I can read that out loud. So Jayla Tillis is a special ed major freshman year and wanted to be in Trio because it helps a lot of students. It's a wonderful program. But yes, she is sick right now, so I hope you feel better, Jayla. And if you would like, if you wanted to type out your victim mentality to creator talk, and if not, that's fine too. We can move on.
Can we just move on?
Yeah, if Jayla, you would like to share later, that's fine too. We can move on to the next person.
I don't want
Would
to.
anyone else like to share for the victim mindset to creator talk?
Don't think about one. Yeah. And we're good. Well, can we just
Okay, well, if nobody else would like to share, we can move on the rest of the presentation. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen again. Yeah, if anyone else did want to, just please jump in. Yes, so thanks everyone who did share. I think this is really helpful to go over how we can change our mindset a little bit into the more objective creator mindset. So some students find it helpful to turn the creative talk into a like a specific positive affirmation. So you can see here, I don't understand, can translate to what am I missing? I give up. I'll use some of the strategies I've learned, and I'm not good at this. I'm on the right track. So this is another short video just to talk a bit about responsibility and choices.
I said good.
Oh, I don't need this. Already late.
Somebody will
you have a phone?
No. Sorry. Somebody! Hello! There are two people stuck on an escalator and we need help. Now, can somebody please do something? You gotta be kidding me. Enough left to do. Hello? Hey, don't worry about it. I'll fix it in a second. Said he can fix it. All right. All right. That's more like it. Says fix it. Walking outside, looking at my feet. That's a moment to the music. Step to the beat. I woke today. It's all my plans. And I step outside. Fighting for my hands. Let's go. We can't lose the sound. We just can't. I can't tell what the news is.
So just reflecting on this video, just kind of a funny video that talks about
I just
personal
walk.
responsibility, the choices we make, and how sometimes we make things a little bit harder than they need to be. Does anyone want to share any of their thoughts about this video, or also about how you think this relates to your own life?
I'll share. What happened in this video is two people on an escalator. The escalator stopped working and it was as if their world paused. It's pretty funny. Instead of getting off the elevator, they chose to just stay there and like kind of make themselves feel worse in a sense, where they're just beating themselves up. Oh, this always happens. Like, oh, I'm gonna be late. Oh, is somebody gonna help me? Kind of like putting the blame off on someone else instead of trying to like fix their own issues or their own problems. Did they have other choices? Yeah, they could have just walked up the escalator. It's almost like they just decided to stay in the quicksand and sink. How does the escalator metaphor relate to your own life? Oh yeah, like not giving yourself enough time to get out the house and get to work on time, or not giving yourself enough time to get to class on time, and allowing yourself to experience anxiety and worry, and just putting this extra pressure on yourself. And you can, just get up a little earlier, do what you got to do before you leave the house. You're gonna rush and get yourself ready at night. Just preparing a schedule where you give yourself adequate amount of time for anything to happen in life, right? Because you don't know what tomorrow holds, or you don't know what the traffic is going to be like. You don't know, what's going to happen when you leave the house. You don't have control over that. So like things happen, and we're human. So obviously, just giving yourself adequate amount of time to just get things done in life.
Definitely. Thank you for sharing. Anyone else like to share their thoughts or reactions to it?
Guess I can connect that back to brain plasticity. I can also relate to having a tendency of leaving the house too late, or running late to places. And the easy fix was, just make sure that you set your timer to, fix your sights on leaving 20 minutes earlier. And it takes really forming a habit, though, right? You have to practice that enough to create that new pathway. You can remain stuck. It's not just a one and done sort of change your mindset. You have to practice it, and you will fail a few times and kind of revert back to your old tendencies. But that's something I can relate to, and I think this connects it, not just changing your mindset, but creating habits through repeated practice.
Yeah, definitely habit is a big piece of it. It's hard to just decide one day to make a change and have it stick forever. You have to practice over time. Anybody else like to share? On to the next area. So now we're going to talk about student experiences. So this is a graphic that depicts the college journey, a snapshot of the first year college experience and beyond. So this data was taken from a national sample that included NEIU students. So at the very beginning, this is where we start off for first year students, especially from underrepresented groups. A lot of them experience self-doubt and social isolation. So 57% of students reported feeling isolation on campus based on factors such as race and socioeconomic status. 85% reported feeling overwhelmed by managing time and all they had to do. 45% said they felt things were hopeless, and 45% were intimidated by their professors and classmates. So as time went on, students became more confident and felt that they belonged to college. So near the end of their journey, 50% reported that their sense of belonging in college improved over time. 80% said they became more confident in their critical thinking, writing, and time management skills. 83% said their professors were approachable, and 72% said they could relate to others of different backgrounds. So I know things are a little different right now with COVID. We're not actually on campus. So I know so many of us are really struggling with the social isolation and the self-doubt that goes along with that. But we will be back somewhere on campus in the fall. So guys, yeah, so this is just a helpful reminder that even though things feel really tough in the beginning, especially with time management, dealing with professors, classmates that are different, a lot of people feel that these things improve over time. So this is a video from NEIU students.
Okay, when I was a freshman, I felt like I didn't have anybody. I thought that I had to do everything by myself. I was so worried about my classes and all of the course that I have to take. But right now, I feel a lot more comfortable with my classes and everything that I have to do. I feel a lot more better, like comparing to my freshman year.
Well, I'm going to use them to make sure I don't have another second semester in a way, so that I don't have to drop more than one class and regret thinking like, oh, I could have done better or something like that. And this time being more confident with myself and pass my classes.
The workshops I've attended has helped me because like I took a journey to success, and it made me think about what decisions am I going to make in life, and there are going to be some tough decisions, but if I think about it, I will make the right decisions.
I learned about all the external opportunities, and then also I was awarded a trio of a
study abroad or paid scholarships. What else? What's your I have also learned to take responsibility, just stay positive and be focused on school, and things are not easy. We have to work hard in order to succeed. They have changed my life, and right now I don't feel shy about my speaking anymore because I feel like I can do it. I'm not shy. I need to practice myself so I can do better. Do not give up, even though you have a challenges. You're not alone. Begin is always harder, but to get the top one is gonna be a challenge. But when you really try hard, you will achieve it more.
I think the people that I would consider a part of my support team would be my parents, my sister, and a couple of very close ones. They help me get through a lot of things. I ask them for advice. I don't know how to navigate through certain situations. So I definitely recommend to sign up for Trio and take advantage of it. It's a great program. Everybody care. They're at students' full disposal. Everybody their fullest potential.
So does anyone have any thoughts or reflections on that video of how that relates to their college experience? I don't know how many of you are first year students. I know it's really difficult to get situated to college and to share their experience.
I not so much experience, but I do have a question. So like that data that was shown, so are those results based on the same students being interviewed like later in life, or is it like third year students as opposed to freshmen they got at a single year, if that makes sense?
No, I'm not sure.
For the first column on the left, where we were, this is based on like freshman surveys and both combination of NEIU specific surveys and like general college student, more national college student surveys. So yeah, that's based on like freshman students, and then as time went on, these are all in retrospect of how that experience changed. So that was more directed at upperclassmen.
Okay, so I was just curious. So if it was like different students, would it be like a possibility that the ones who stuck around later are the ones who like approach college in a healthy way anyway? That makes sense? Or is it like those students initially transformed?
That raises a good point. That makes me think of like the Noble Charter Network schools that they promote that they have a 90 something percent graduation and college going great. But that excludes the fact that like 50% of the freshmen who start at one of the Noble Charter schools basically get kicked out of the school in the first year. So yeah, I see your point. It's like the positive reflection. That is a sort of self-select, a limited audience of students who stuck around, and then that kind of raises more of the question. How many students persisted past that first year? But I think that's sort of a different sort of a different question from being a student who persisted, who had those self-doubts initially. How did your perception, how did those self-doubts change? That picture, I think, is generally positive from talking to students who made it that far.
Yeah, because are you guys familiar with like the big 5 personality traits? I believe like the first column kind of sounds a lot like what would be classified as like neuroticism, or someone of that nature would kind of have that viewpoint, versus the other one seems more conscientious, more like hardworking in a sense.
Yeah, that's possible. Yeah, and in what you said before, that is very possible with it's not actually the same students over time, although it does say that the data was collected over a couple of years. And in terms of the neuroticism, I think, that could be true to an extent, but I also think students who aren't necessarily neurotic as a personality trait can still experience the isolation, the self-doubt, feeling overwhelmed.
Yeah, absolutely. I think like I definitely would have lumped myself in the first category when I first started. I mean, this is my second attempt in college, so
yeah.
Not to like downplay anything.
I think that's how most college students feel to some degree, to what degree varies from person to person, but college is a whole new ball game, especially if you're a first generation student and your parents don't have that sort of like, hey, this is how it felt and this is how it goes. You have to get that from other people or get that on your own. So this is, I think this is more of the common experience college students than it isn't. And in a way, that's encouraging, because if everybody goes through that and is successful, then that's like, hey, I can do this too.
Gotcha.
So, and then kind of going back to the video, would anyone like to share if they are later on in their college career, if they felt that they experienced those same things, and also experienced the positive changes over time? Would like to share their experience?
I'll go ahead and share. And this is Mitzi. So just listening to this, I definitely had the sense of I don't belong. When I first came to Northeastern, I came from community college. It took me a while to pay for it. So it took me a while to get through it because I was having a hard time paying for it. So then by the time I got here, I was like, I know what I want to do, but at the same time, I was lost about everything. I think the most embarrassing part was I did not know what a double joint offering was. I have never heard of that. I understand the way they were in classes was really weird. Also, like instead of putting like a TH for Thursdays, an R, like, I just kept finding myself having to look stuff up, and I didn't know anyone. And I remember reaching out to a classmate, so they had sent a mass email, and I'm like, hey, do you know what a joint offering is? And all he said was like, well, read the syllabus. And I was just like, okay, rude. And then I was just like, I remember I was crying because I couldn't figure it out. And then I emailed my professor. There was a special ed freshman, we have Dr. Moreno. He's amazing. And he was just really kind about it. He's like, are you new to school? And I was like, yes. And then he just explained to me, oh, that just means I'm going to be a professor for both classes. Whatever schedule is, it's just I teach both at the same time. And my first reaction was like, oh my God, like, what did I sign up for? This seems like a lot of work. Am I even going to be able to do it? And then he reassured me, he's like, it's going to be fine. Just test it out. You'll see. And I think that was like, I was like, okay. That was a good experience with him, because that was definitely like really embarrassing, trying to navigate, trying to understand things. I had issues with everything because I didn't know what I was doing. And then I will say as time passed by, I definitely understood better, but it just took a lot of like what I felt was like I'm embarrassing myself, like asking what I felt were stupid questions to my professors. But in reality, I just found like, you know, they were the most helpful. And had I not done that, I don't think I'll still be here right now, because it was a very like stressful first semester because I did not understand a lot of things the school did. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. I'm glad you had such a supportive professor at the beginning to help navigate you through this. You know, we do hear that a lot, that professors, you know, a lot of students are really scared about interacting with professors or sending emails or asking questions. And I know it's a really scary process to go through it at first and to interact with them if they seem, you know, like they're going to be really mean or talk down to you. But most of the time, professors have been doing this for a long time. They've been asked every kind of question you can imagine. And most of the time, they're really nice, they're really understanding, and they really do want to help you succeed. And if you ask them a question and you know, you think it sounds stupid or whatever, I think there's a really small chance that they're going to respond in a way that's like, oh, why would you ask that? I mean, they've probably heard everything at this point. Does anyone else want to share their experience in any way connecting to this before we move on? Okay, well, we can move on to the next section. So we're not going to be doing a 20-minute writing prompt, don't worry. Okay, so now we're going to go over some of our TRIO and campus resources. So my to-do list as a new TRIO student. So attend orientation, obviously we're all here right now. So every semester we like our students to complete a student success plan. It's just an online like Google form, really easy to fill out. It just goes over what your needs are, what you're hoping to get out of the program in terms of like different help, support, or resources, and also just to outline each of your classes, what you think some of your challenges will be, what some of your strengths are, and just kind of a good way to plan out and map your semester. Next step would be to schedule your first meeting with your TRIO advisor. I'm sure some of you have done that already. Some other things involve advisory checklist, strengths quest assessment, which is it's a great assessment. It's normally really expensive, but TRIO students can take them for free. So it's just an assessment that tells you what your top strengths are and how they can apply to your life as a student, as a worker. It's really helpful, and you can learn a lot about yourself. And then also tutoring if it's needed. Okay, and then these are just some notes about, yeah, every semester we'd like our students to check in at the beginning of the semester, near the middle, and at the end to deal with registration and picking up courses for the next semester. All TRIO students get priority registration, which is really nice. And I'm sure you all are aware that fall registration does open on Monday. Priority registration does. Yep, Strengths Quest, use your strengths in your career, academics, personal life. Other, this includes applying for scholarships, internships, TRIO events, TRIO workshops. So TRIO students must attend 2 workshops a year, one of which are about financial literacy. So we do have our Reading and Learning Week next week. It's next week. And so we have a ton of workshops all week long about all sorts of different subjects relating to academics, work, success in life. So make sure to sign up for some of those. It'll be very interesting. So a big focus with our TRIO students surrounds financial literacy. So a lot of our workshops do surround financial literacy in other areas like consumer finance, personal budgeting, dealing with financial aid, loans, budgeting for classes, getting your credit score, things like that. And so if you have any questions on any of these areas, please reach out to your advisor because we always help you with any type of financial issues and try and guide you in that sense. Consumer finance, learn more about loans, credit cards, scams, student loans, and more. You know, all of this stuff is really hard to grasp for students, and if we don't go through it this way, it's like okay, oh yeah, credit score can help you figure that out, and also just monthly budgeting. So a TRIO student participation contract, check in with your TRIO advisor at least 3 times per semester, 1 workshop per semester, and then 1 financial literacy training per year. So this is what we expect of all of our students per semester and per year. And so this is all of our TRIO contact information. This is actually not up to date. There's some old names on here. And also, I don't think these are our remote phone numbers, but I will send this to you after with the updated information. So you'll be able to see everyone's email address, their remote phone numbers, and also a link to their calendars. We use this website called Calendly, so you can schedule with your advisor directly. It'll show their schedule and you can pick your time. So stay connected. We have a weekly email blast. I'm sure you've seen it's in this format. So we just share things coming up for this week. So I have a bunch of information down below that you can check out, a bunch of links. It's very helpful. We also have TRIO Facebook, TRIO Instagram, TRIO blog, and TRIO Twitter. So just connect with those to get some more information and see, learn about upcoming events. Yeah, and then during the weekly email, we'll also include information about upcoming career fairs, scholarships. We'll sometimes do job postings. And when we're back on campus, we have some in-person events that we did. And we've also been doing a couple of virtual events too. So this is the end of the presentation. Does anyone have any questions? Have any resources or opportunities you'd like to know more about? Or just any comments about the presentation as a whole? Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing this screen. So I am going to email all of you with a TRIO resource guide. all of the things that we offer, as well as lists of how to email, phone numbers, and the calendar links for all of our TRIO advisors. Anyone else have any other questions, comments before we end today? Oh, and also they'll include a what's it called? Sorry,
I knew.
Oh, we're gonna send you like a
The brochure, that
Yeah.
PDF with the resources? Is that what
yeah.
you're talking
No,
about?
you'll see it in the email.
Oh, an evaluation. Just-
Yes.
All right.
That's it.
Any questions? We got there in 2.
Yes, evaluation about what you thought of the presentation. So it would be really helpful if you could fill that out. And then, yeah, so please reach out if you have any other questions. Otherwise, thank you all so much for being here today. Welcome to TRIO. We're very excited to work with you this semester. Hope you
Nice
guys
meeting
have
everybody. We will see you all at Meeting and Learning.
yeah, hope you guys have a good rest of your day and have a good weekend.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Mhm.